Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Honor the Feminine podcast. I am your host, Shannon Ledford, and today we're doing another bonus episode with Ava Aldinolfi. Hi, Ava.
Hey.
So we've been doing these bonus episodes, and it's been so fun to drop in together and share with you how we've been living into our new work around divine union. And today, we're really going to drop into that, into divine union, and how we've started to live it and walk it. And one of the places that we've really deepened in is doing the interviews for 11 Days of Devotion to Divine Union, which starts on September 18th. And we had a lot of themes come up, and for me, it helped me really to deepen in and refine and get even more clarity around the path I've been walking to weave that union of the sacred masculine and the divine feminine within me over the last year. So, yeah. So, Ava, how's it been for you? Like, how's divine union showing up, and what are the themes that really hit you, and all the things?
All the things. Yeah, I mean, it's been showing up for sure, from the moment of, I guess, conception of this program, I would say, and obviously even before that. And the themes really that are coming through, there's a lot of, or not a lot of, but I think 3 or 4 really distinct themes that, that we found. And I think my favorite one that I wasn't necessarily aware that would come through was the one with the light and the shadow. Because we, as we've been developing this, really been focused on, the masculine and feminine energy, also, yin and yang energy, if we want to put a different name to it, which is so beautiful and such a great access point to play with. But yeah, that like the darkness, the shadow, and then the duality of that being the light. And what's been really beautiful too is in going, we go into our shadow a lot for our work, obviously, because, each initiation takes, I feel like in our lives throughout this past year, each initiation that we have takes us into the dark. It takes us into the shadow. And then that's where we then begin to activate in that dark space, which has been super gorgeous to experience. But it's also been really lovely to have these amazing thought leaders or magical beings, if you will, that we've been spending time with for these videos, really take us on a journey of and sharing that there is sort of this misconception really around what it means to go into the dark, and that like we really see the dark as this scary place, which is also fascinating because like when I think about me as a person, I fucking love the dark.
Right. And I shy away.
Yeah. Like I feel so safe in the dark. Like when I think about the safest place ever to be, it's in what I call the void, which is like the place of no time and space. And I feel like where all souls, live or are born, if you will. And so I love the dark. I find it to be one of my safest places. And so it's lovely to hear that it is actually this really beautiful access point and this great place. And it's really only on the surface of the darkness or of the shadow that is where our shit is or where it's scary, right? And it's like that's sort of like where that initiation is. But once you keep going deeper, you find this place of like beauty. And then that's where you actually have access to the light that we've been seeking.
Yeah, it feels like a construct to me that is egoic on the surface of this is the way things have to be to stay in the light, right? Yeah. And to keep me small. And that for me going into the shadow, it can bring up things that are uncomfortable, but more than anything, it's helped dismantle these egoic structures on the surface and my old stories so that I can be more of my full self, that I can more fully stand in my true power, that I can radiate from that spot. So it's really me remembering pieces of my soul that have gotten lost in the darkness that has been created by these constructs and conditionings on my surface.
Yeah. And then additionally, too, the other thing that's really been coming through, and actually not just from our video series, from being these beautiful conversations, but also the conversations that we've been having with each other and with, other people in our lives. And that is that light. Well, so there's this aspect of spiritual bypassing, which I feel like you kind of touched on and is also related. But the other piece here is that the light I'm starting to find is somewhat of a distraction, right? It's something that keeps us from going into those depths, like from going into the underworld, from going into the hidden and the shadow. And that's a little scary when I think about that, actually, right? Because it keeps us from ourselves. It keeps us from a remembering, as you basically just said. And yes, I get it. The light is beautiful and sparkles and happiness. All those things are beautiful.
And we've been conditioned to turn towards it.
Yes, so much. And I feel that, and I know that desire. And what if there's something so much better? And we just have to go into the dark to find it, right?
I think that's been our experience.
Yeah, totally. It is. But I guess that's just the question that I pose to the people who are constantly looking to the light. I feel you. And what if there's something better? And, I remember, go ahead.
There's just what popped in was that, and there's a lot of access points that are available to getting to your better, to going into your shadow, right? And to feel into what that is in the moment to help create more truth and growth and expansion for you. And it's going to be different for everyone, right? And my access points have changed considerably in the last few years.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that in episode 4, bonus episode 4, right? I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
Go check that out if you haven't, guys. Because access points are beautiful, and we want access points, and we want support of a collective, support of community, support of friends, sisterhood, brotherhood. That's always really big. Someone to remind you that when you are in that tougher spot of the darkness, which again is really just that first little pinprick, honestly. It might last. It's going to last as long as you want the suffering to last. But honestly, the distraction of the light is much deeper suffering, if you will. But having a friend to just remind you that it's a worthy journey. Again, the lovely Shannon's words, that was my mantra for so long, you guys. When I decided to, I was had a foot in the darkness, but I just kept looking at the light. But that was more painful than just jumping into the darkness. And she was my constant reminder. It's a worthy journey. It's a worthy journey. And that in and of itself is just so beautiful and made it that much easier for me to put both feet in and really go there.
Yeah, and finding some support on the journey. I mean, we were in a program together at the time, so we were together on a regular basis at a set time every week.
Right. Yes, there's a container for it.
Yeah.
So it was a commitment. It was devotion to your people and to yourself, for sure.
And I think that one of the other big things that came up that you and I have been playing with so much, and really living into, is that idea of finding divine union, looking for it. And it sort of, is the same analogy as the light, right? It's look for a divine union outside of yourself. Look for it in your relationships. That's where you create it. And the truth is, my truth has become, I create the weaving of the divine union within myself, and then I radiate it out, and it shifts, and then I start to see it in the external. But it's not, I have this tendency to try and manhandle and mangle things into the way I think they should look externally, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us do some of that, right? And so here I am trying to, say, mangle my marriage to look like divine union, right? Mm-hmm. And the best thing that I've done to create more of that in our house and in my marriage and with my husband is to go inside and find the threads of the sacred masculine and the divine feminine within me, and then continue to weave them together. And then radiate out from that place. Mm-hmm. And it's a process, and it's a continual dynamic weaving that I step more deeply into all the time.
Yeah, gorgeous. It's interesting as you start to bridge the two of these together. It really reminded me of Cater and our conversation with him. And yeah, so like this light and dark within and external, like if you think of going into the earth, into her womb, into the underworld, so the darkness, that's also internal, whereas we look quite often to the light, the sun, and that's external. So it's just like a interesting shift that popped up into my head. But yeah, totally. And honestly, that's one, and I just want to say too, like, we're living this, like we're living and breathing all of these initiations and all of these learnings ourselves. But like, that doesn't mean that we get it right every time. Like, I know that for me, like there are still moments, where I, especially in relationship with my partner, like where there are times that I will seek love and wholeness from my partner. And almost sometimes like get mad at him, like, why aren't you loving me enough? I don't feel loved. When really, like, it's not his job. Like, yes, of course, he should love me if we're in partnership, right? Like, if we're making that decision. But it's not his job to make me feel loved and whole. It's my job to make me feel loved and whole. And, like, nobody can actually do that for me. I have to do that for myself. Like, if I am not nourishing me and taking care of me and spending time with myself, then that's not going to radiate out. And actually, if anything, then that just makes me look needy to him and pushes him away. And then I really don't get what I want, which is to be in partnership with him. And that's in so many relationships, but that's just, an example of what comes
and I laugh at the messiness. Like, no one think that, we live in divine union bliss in my house all the time. That is nowhere near. The messiness is real. And I was just saying a few days ago, an argument with my husband. And as we were standing in the kitchen having the argument, it was an argument from 3 or 4 years ago, and the part of me that showed up to that particular argument in that moment was the me from 3 or 4 years ago. Now, then there's that tendency of mine to be like, oh my God, I've gotten nowhere. But when I step back, I can see what's going on because of the journey I've been on. I can see, oh my gosh, I'm showing up as the person from 3 or 4, that part of myself that was present really continually 3 or 4 years ago. And she still lives within me. I just have a different relationship with her. Now I can almost see big picture, witness the whole thing. Zoom out. Zoom out. Yeah, and then I can say, oh my gosh, it showed up as, right? And we can step into this theme that goes on in our marriage around me feeling like he thinks he does things better and then imposing them on me, right? Which is part of our dance. right? And it's a part that we've healed a lot of, but that still comes up. We don't spiral down into it now in the same way and stay there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you move through it so much quicker.
Oh, God.
Because you can see so much more that you couldn't see 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
And that facet of me, like, she's part of me.
Mm.
And for me, it's not about erasing her or getting rid of her. It's around shifting my relationship with her.
Oh, yeah. I know this well.
Because the pushing and the erasing, that's takes a lot of energy for me. A lot of misused energy, it's felt like in the past.
Well, and I don't want us to go too far off of a tangent, but when we do that, when we try to stuff a version of ourselves down, they just get louder and throw more tantrums. Or at least that's been my experience with my 15-year-old self, who I call Candace. And we don't want Candace to have a tantrum. Shannon really doesn't want Candace to have a tantrum.
Candace is a facet of Ava that I take in small doses, y'all. But we're very clear about that.
Yes.
And I think in the multiple conversations we've had around this, you and I, we've both learned a lot about ourselves and each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Candace had a lot to teach us. And she's still, I think, when she shows up, she has things. She's there for a reason, for sure. So, yeah, but just like, I guess since we're on this topic now, for any of us who, you feel like there's a piece of you, or an older piece of you, if you will, that shows up in your life time to time, like just really taking the time to honor that piece of you, I would say is the best way to go. Because again, they just get louder and louder because they want to see the table. They want a voice in your life. They're there for a reason. And I think when we can just like take a moment to breathe and ask why they're there, and process and be with them, be with that part of yourself, love that part of yourself, then yeah, the shifts come so much quicker and easier.
Wow. And I think that gets us to one of the other themes that came up as we were really dropping in and jamming with the ones that we love and respect around divine union, is the separateness versus the collective. And I think within that also the diminished or uninitiated or wounded masculine and feminine energy that is in our collective and swirls around us. And finding within ourselves some integrated, initiated, divine energies, because they have both,
Yeah.
And we've seen, I think we have, again, with the external, seen like what the diminished masculine and feminine looks like and think that's masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And the sacred masculine and the divine feminine energies that live within us are not that.
Yes, they look very, very different. And I think that's like, something to bring up around this. It feels like a multi-dimensional conversation. So let me see if I can produce this somewhat linear for us in this way. But it's like we have all these things happening in the world right now, and some of them are heartbreaking. And just for like a quick example, we have our president is very much an example of the wounded masculine. And so a lot of us are feeling into, how do we heal this? How do we change this? How do we come into union as a collective? And again, it's that internal, external thing, whereas like we're seeing an external problem, but the solution is not external. Because as we continue to be external, that is separateness. That is creating separateness. And as long as we are separate from ourselves, then we are not, and again, separate from ourselves. So needing to go internal, we can't do the external work in the collective and the healing until we do the internal first. Or that feels like a priority for my journey and what I see as part of this and what I've been hearing through all of these conversations that we've been having around divine union too. And then even when we, take it more of a micro look, right? Again, with just our relationships, like just as I was speaking about, my intimate partnership, if I see, an issue or a problem in that dynamic, again, that's external from me. And if I look outside of myself for the answer, then again, I'm creating separateness when really what I'm looking for is more connection. So just like a couple of ways to look at that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there's something around that Remembering Divine Union dropped in for us back in January, but we've spent many months living into it so that now we can hold the container to really share it, and in a smaller collective, really play with it, right? And create space for all of us to deepen into it more.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that happens too. So it's happening internally. It's happening, some of that, this seems a little counterintuitive, but some of that internal work is happening in small collectives so that we can hold each other and heal with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then
definitely.
being brought out to this bigger mass collective consciousness of the world. Because sometimes feeling like, oh, I can heal the world, that can feel overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, where do I start? Because, I see the wounded masculine here, and I see the wounded feminine here, and Charlottesville and Syria, and,
all the
things that you can be like, where do I start? We start internal. Because as we do that, then we can also speak up and use our truth-speaking voices when we see something that needs us to speak into, right?
Yeah, that's out of alignment or wounded. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can call it for what it is. And when we do that, we release some of the shame around it. And that's what, that just feels important, that we are doing it together and internally. Like it's multifaceted.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think we always are saying too that how much more powerful we are when we're in a collective. So so I guess here's, like just to piggyback on what you're saying is that we can have an intention within a collective. So like a group program, or let's say like a circle, or, whatever it may be, having that group intention, but also doing our work internally, but doing that work internally together. And then that magnifies and also quickens. What's my word I want to use? Quickens the work. That's not the right word, but close enough.
It creates the shifts and growth and expansion more rapidly.
Yes, more rapidly. So more rapidly, and it magnifies it. So we're doing our internal work together as a collective. And then as we do that, it begins to radiate out. And then too, there's not just one collective doing this, right? There's many, like you said, more intimate collectives. And as we grow in that way, we can magnify our power, magnify our magic, magnify our truth and our voice, for the healing of the world. And so it isn't just me by myself or you by yourself, right? It's a group effort.
And the collective for me has been my place to practice and to deepen in a really safe way, and to talk about the hard things, money and sex and relationships and sensuality and my father wound, all the things.
Yeah, because as long as we're not talking about them, they're staying hidden.
And they have a lot of power.
And they have a lot of power there, and they're not being healed. And in a collective, in a safely held collective, it's just a really beautiful place to put that. And in a place where it can be transmuted.
And before I had a collective to do that with, I didn't actually realize I was yearning for one.
Good point.
Yeah, it's not as if I was looking for a collective. Instead, it was a feeling for me of, gosh, I know there's so much more, and I can feel myself holding myself back. How do I step beyond this? But the idea of healing in a collective was not what I was seeking per se. It's not what I knew I needed.
Yeah,
oftentimes,
oftentimes we don't know. We know there's something missing, or we know there's something that we are looking for. And yeah, collective is a beautiful space. And so let's also name some other things of what a collective could look like in a more intimate way, just, so everybody has an idea here. So when we speak about an intimate collective, we're speaking about, when people refer to sisterhood or brotherhood, going to circles, that would be a collective. Soul family. So if you have soul family meaning those really deep connections where you just feel completely held and safe. A group program.
Masterminds.
Masterminds. There's, I think that
just to give a sense of where to drop in with that. And again, it's then back to the discernment and the access points from bonus episode 4 around what feels good to you right now, and really dropping in to your body as much as you can to feel that.
Yes, because she knows so much more than we do. She's the truth meter.
Oh my
barometer.
God. This has been so much fun today.
It always is, honestly.
It is. So our deep invitation today is to go over to Remembering Divine Union and sign up for 11 days of devotion to Divine Union. That way you can really drop into the activations of the 11 interviews we did. 2 are with couples, so there's 13 amazing beings that we, again, really love and respect, and we're excited to jam with. And it just enlivened so many things in us that we're thrilled to share those activations with you. Yeah.
Yes, and just so much love was poured into them too. So we also just want to share our love and devotion, out and wide.
Yeah. And so again, we start on September 18th. You can go over to Remembering Divine Union to sign up, and those videos will show up in your inbox between the 18th and the 28th. So good. We've been rewatching them. And then we're going to have all of this interaction in our Facebook group at Honoring Divine Union around what came up in those videos. And some of it, we're going to deepen in with some of those themes we talked about today.
And we've already been working. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Shannon came up with a lovely name, Ponder and Pause. And we've been going through the work ourselves because we want to do it right along with you. And it's been really powerful. To deepen in for sure. I actually even remember for day 1, I was like, oh, why did I pick these questions? but then it was so beautiful once I did it, because, I had to go into my shadow a little bit, but it was awesome.
Yeah. And so, the pause and ponder has been beautiful, not only for Ava and I to drop into ourselves, but then we've been sharing them with each other. And that creates some more healing. And then we're going to share them with you and invite you to share with us. And again, we're rippling out the healing and activation of all of this. And so really Honoring beautiful. Divine Union's a beautiful space to do that. So again, rememberingdivineunion.com. That's where you get all your goods. Yay! Yeah. All right, my love. Thank you for today.
Thank you.